try and describe the future world of work, because I think that's what you need to know. But as to how to get a job, that's exactly what you're doing here right now. Dr. Wafula, for example, is here preparing you, on how to get a job, because jobs need skills and knowledge. All right? Yeah. So once you have the skills that are required by an employer, they'll take you in, as long as you can demonstrate those skills during an interview. Now, keeping your job is probably one of the most difficult things to do right now. And on the other extreme side, I would report that most young people right now don't want to keep jobs, okay? As in going beyond, because we employ good talent, all right? But they don't stay on beyond like 2-3 years. After a couple of years, they want to move on to something else, okay? So when you want to look at the place of work or careers in the same way that we have looked at careers as older people, you'll be getting the whole picture wrong, because you guys are not after permanent and pensionable jobs, okay? You want to go for something that fulfills your desires and passion, okay? And then those passions, don't stay too long. After a couple of years, you want to move on to something more exciting, all right? So keeping jobs right now is not the in thing, because you want short, sweet contracts where you define terms of engagement, and you provide the skills that are required, and after some time you move on to something that's more exciting. That's the future of work. All right? Yeah. So if I were to say how to keep jobs, where we are coming from, not for you, it would be learning to work with other people, networking and partnering and teamwork. Because when you're part of a team, and you are providing your contribution in good measure, then of course you get to keep a job. But if you are not a team player, you want to stand alone and do your thing, you probably won't last too long at a place of work. For those of you who want to hold your jobs beyond, say, 5 years. So social skills are key for holding onto a job. You will definitely know when you need to move on to the next thing, next role, next job, next employer, because of constant interaction with the world outside of your place of work, okay? So that's something that will come naturally, and it comes differently to different people. So I cannot say this is a template, okay? As an individual, you feel when it's time to move on, maybe you're not satisfied with the kind of money you paid, so you want to go for better money, or the work environment is not conducive. You feel like you're not growing enough. They're possibly not offering professional, growth opportunities like training. So yeah, there'll come that time when you feel like it's time to move on. Or sometimes people move on because they've gotten another opportunity already. Yeah. All right. Yeah. If I tell you about myself, and that's why I was saying that the real Samaduke will come, out in the process of the conversations we're having, rather than, taking your time to take you through, my professional life. I started out as a teacher. Okay, and after about 10 or so years, I left that and went to sales as an insurance salesperson. Okay, so that's how come I'm here right now. I've also left that off and on. So I've done several things in my life. All right. So as to the last question, of course, like I said, that time comes when you know it's time to move on, and you just move on naturally, as long as you have the skills to go and add value to that other place of work.
Okay. Paint a picture of the workplace, the work world. Inakaaje? How is it? What do the employers expect of the employees or the interviewers?
Thank you, Faith. I do not want to paint a picture of the world of work as it is right now, because that's not good for you. I don't think that's what you'll be meeting when you get out of here. Rather, I want to paint a picture of what is called the new world of work. Okay. You see, when I was employed about 30 years ago, you'd go to work at, say, 8, the traditional 8 to 5, and you'd probably continue going to the same office, every day of your life until you retire. Okay? Yeah. And then you have your pension to go and take care of your old age. All right? In the new world of work, that is not the kind of scenario that you expect. Like I told you, we are in the gig economy, the economy of agencies, where people, now, you as young people who want to get to the workplace, are actually, you have rewritten the social engagement contract with employers. You want to work according to your terms, not according to the employer terms. Okay? So, the new world of work looks like this. Number one, it's not a place you want to go to. It's not a physical building you want to go to from 8 to 5. Okay? Because right now, some of my colleagues here were actually working as we were driving down to Mtito from the office. Okay? Initially, when there was a meeting in the office, you wouldn't go anywhere. Okay? But they were in meetings as we were coming down. The only person who couldn't be in that meeting is the driver. All right? Yeah, so we were working as we were coming down, driving, down here. All the 5 hours we were working, just like people in the office. That's a new world of work for you. Okay? Yeah. Secondly, it's a place that is currently under the attack of automation, machines. Okay? Yeah. If you go to your computers or your phones, okay? There is this familiar technology now known as chatbot. And if you're onto my website, for example, and I've told you you can go there right now and start interacting with me. Leave your email address and telephone numbers and everything, and we can be chatting. It's samaduke.com. So the first thing that will strike you is that I have an assistant. It's called a chatbot. Okay, that's a robot. That's a software robot that is able to answer questions and chat with you. Much like a customer service assistant would be. Okay? So that's what's defining the current place of work. In other words, there is a lot of impact of technology on the place of work, such that what you should be worrying about is, are we going to be getting the same salaries as are you going to be getting the same salaries as us, or more or worse? I mean, less? Are you going to have work at all? Because if you're automating the office, it means that we'll require less and less people, human intervention in the office. That's where we're going. Okay? Yeah. So the new world of work is characterized by what is called work from home, meaning your house is your office, but you're working. Okay? It's characterized by what is called hybrid. Sometimes you go to the office, possibly 2 days a week, and most of the time you are away from the office. Okay? And that no one cares what you do as long as you deliver, because they are deliverables at the end of the day. All right? That's the new kind of the new world of, all right? And it's characterized by not permanently employed. Most of us went for permanent employment. You guys will be going for permanent employability, meaning that you want future-proofed skills. You want skills that last, skills that are going to be required today, tomorrow, and the day after, rather than getting attached permanently to an employer, which makes most of us very miserable. Because when terms and conditions deteriorate, you're forced to stay there, even if you don't want to, because it's paying the bills. But on your own terms, the gig economy is where you organize yourself as an agency outside, and you're able to provide services to organizations at your own terms. Yeah, so that's the new world of work.
And let's assume you are the manager of the organization. How will you ensure that you impress a workplace that is positive to your employees?
All right. So I'm supposed to assume that a manager and you're all my employees, and then how do I create an environment that's positive and conducive for all of you?
Yeah.
Now, that depends on what you want, Sophie. Because different employees will want different things. And you can't possibly meet the needs and wants of everyone. Okay? Workplaces are sort of standardized. Like I'm sure you know. You have your teachers here, don't you? Yeah. When you come to work in a place, especially a physical place like this, then, you're sort of forced to sort of acclimatize to the physical conditions. However, because you people will not be forced to work in physical offices, okay, you create your own work environment. And the only place where people possibly meet is the network. You know, when you are doing conferences online and stuff like that, okay? Which is a very flexible place. So I would say that as young people wanting or waiting to go to get into the place of work, that a great workplace would be a place with lots of flexibility, okay, around the work time. If you want to work at night, you may want to work at night. If you want to work first thing in the morning, because we have people who have a lot of energy in the morning, and that energy dissipates from around mid-morning. After lunch, they're useless. But you still force that guy to stick in the office. You know, that's a waste of their time. Yeah, there are people who are more active in the evening, okay? So you'd have to be such an employer that is flexible around work time. Flexible, okay. A good employer would also be great in developing talent, all right? So that you provide opportunities for people to grow, okay? A good workplace would be structured in such a way that people get what they deserve. Not that people with less skills like have higher ranks, play bigger roles, and earn more money than people with higher skills, okay? So it's a place of fairness and equity, all right? That is the kind of work environment that I would create as a manager.
Wow, thank you.
So we should be getting questions from the audience. Are there any questions? You can raise your hand ndio tupatane haraka haraka.
Faith, as you look for people to ask you questions, possibly I could provide some background so that they can begin, they can find a rich foundation to pick questions from.
Yeah.
I want to talk shortly about the careers of the future, okay?
Yeah.
Because I know you're here being prepared pretty much for the kind of work that we were prepared for in college 30 years ago, which is sort of a mismatch, okay? Because the new world of work will require less and less of what we had 30, 40 years ago, and more of what technologists of the future want. So there are careers that are more or less in their deathbed, and there are careers that are beginning to just thrive. You can imagine that we are here now, but this place wouldn't be the same without our DJs and the machinery that they brought along. Okay? These guys have work like 24 hours a day. All right? Yeah. So the world of entertainment has professionals, okay? Like the Churchills of this world, eh? Yes, that are paid on an hourly basis. The salary of, a corporate manager, yeah, on an hourly basis. So that tells you where careers are going, okay? So the careers of the future revolve both around technology and the human being, okay? Yeah. Around technology, they're mostly in data science, okay? Because data has become a key strategic resource for organizations. So if you can produce and manage data at a workplace, you're good to go. And then out of that comes another career, which is called right now, because we're in cyberspace, it's called cybersecurity. Okay, so for those of you who are in IT, those are where the money is. All right, data science, analytics, and cybersecurity, because data is a big thing, and now it has to be protected. Other than the work that's done on data by data scientists, okay, of analysis and archiving and harvesting and everything, the security of that data is paramount, because an attack can be very costly. Then the next frontier of growth of careers is around how to make people happy, because people are stressed up, okay? That is why anything therapeutic, like people who cause laughter, you have been at your place of work for hours, and you leave when you're stressed, okay? So most people would prefer to go to a bar and for a drink up and chat with friends, to get their relief. But other people would possibly go to an entertainment joint where they have comedians making people laugh. Okay? Yeah. So those are and then of course things like nursing and therapy and stuff and physiotherapy, because people need relaxation after all the day's hard work. So we should be thinking in terms of the effect on technology on work. Are we going to be earning less or more? Are we going to be having enough jobs or not? Okay? And is there work for us after college, after all? Thank you.
Okay, and talking of cybersecurity, do we have any threats or rather challenges of this cybersecurity?
There is no single organization right now that is not online one way or another. Okay, like I was telling you, we were working while we were coming, down to Mtitandei. Why? Because our work is on some platform which is online. Okay, and that is where we meet. That's where we hold our meetings. Okay, so it could be on Zoom or Teams or any other such sort of technology that allows conferencing, teleconferencing, video conferencing. So when you are online, you're exposed to attackers. Okay, yeah, and when they attack, they can corrupt or steal data, from which is a big resource to the organization. Even steal company secrets and then hold you at ransom. So indeed, there are challenges, and that is why cybersecurity people are paid a lot of money because even banks money gets stolen by through cyber attack. There are people who withdraw a lot of money from banks online because they corrupt systems and they're able to hack security details and enter and do transactions involving millions of money. Okay, so there indeed is an area of career that is still very gray because we don't have enough manpower in that area.
Okay.
So what can you say about planning and development in terms of career?
Repeat?
Planning and development.
Yes. I know I'll disappoint you, but for the most part, there are two things. There is planning and the plan. All right? Yeah, because when you sit down to think through what you need to do in future, and then you lay out, you have an outlay of various tasks and initiatives and timelines. That is a plan, all right? But you see, the process of coming up with that document, so to speak, is planning. So what I think is that planning is critical. It's a very essential activity, all right? Because it gives you a vision, it gives you a goal, it sets you in a direction. Okay? But the document that results from that is more or less useless. Okay? So your career plans are useless, but the planning process is useful because it sets you on a direction that is useful, for growth.
What about the time frame of this strategic plan? What about it? Yeah.
Time frames depend on the nature of the business or the nature of the plan. Because in the corporate world, we plan for 5-10 years, okay? In government, they can even plan for, they can even plan for 100 years. Meaning that the sitting president, like now, we had Vision 2030. That came up during Kibaki's regime. We are now having, can I have some more?
Sorry.
So that came, let's open it for him, please. So we are now in the third, we are now with the third president after Kibaki. And we're not in 2030 yet, okay? So time frame around planning depends on the body corporate, okay? So if it's government, it can even be 100 years. If it's a small SME, for example, it can't go beyond a year, okay? The vision can be there, for the next century, but planning needs to be tactical in nature, depending on the size and the what is called the primary duty of that organization.
Okay. And how you can also change your plan to some extent, yeah, or maybe what can we say? Yeah, just you may change your plan or how can you update it with time?
True,
Yeah.
true. That's true, Sophie.
Yeah.
And that is what I was saying. That sitting down to come up with a plan is an invaluable thing. It's excellent. It's work. It's work well done. It's time well spent. But the document itself, because of the nature of how that document interacts with reality, and ensures that it keeps changing all of the time. Okay?
Okay,
So
okay.
your plan needs to be updated like on, very frequently, depending on how fast the environment in which you operate, is changing.
Okay.
Yes.
Can we get the questions from the audience, please? The questions from the audience. Maswali. Some papers are going to be going around, so you can write them down. Moderator.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Mark Opele, and I'm a Bachelor of Commerce student, a fourth year. My question is, we are living in an environment, or rather in a world, where there are a lot of dynamics in the career fields. You'll find that, for instance, I'm a trained accountant, but you'll find me elsewhere working as a lab technician. You explain to us what happens that an organization goes to the extent of hiring me to be a lab technician when I'm a trained accountant. Thank you.
So he's asking, what you study for is not what you are hired for.
You want me to answer question by question, or we collect
We collect all of them.
No, it's okay. We can answer one by one, if that's what you want. You can ask your question so that we answer the two of them at the same time.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm Derek Omondi, a student, dryland agriculture, taking it. And my question is about technology that you have currently brought. I'm so much worried actually that about technology inversion and the career path that we are taking. Actually, if we look at the employment status versus our population, then I'm so much worried as a student. And as somebody will be on my career ways. So I would like a clarity. Do you think that our education system is good enough and equipped enough for this vision that is ahead of us? The 2065, I'm looking at Africa's vision in 2065. I'm looking at the Kenyan vision in 2030. I'm looking at the global vision actually, where we'll be having technologies, and yet I'm in another education system here where I'm trained as a skilled person, as a labor. Okay? So I'm so much worried in the next generation, the end generation that will come. You see, I'm so much worried. Can you give me some clarity? Am I really in the right path in this field of technology? Or should we limit this technology that will also hinder us somehow?
All right. So let me answer those two questions, and then we get another set of questions. So the first question essentially was around how do you take an accountant and then make them and give give them the work of a lab technician? So that is a gist of your question, isn't it? I want to say that other than the few other things I mentioned around the new world of work, the third force is around flexibility. I told you earlier I was trained as a teacher. Okay, now I'm not teaching. When I left teaching, I went to sell insurance. I was not trained to sell insurance. Okay, I have also been a telecommunications engineer installing telecommunication masks. I've also been a software security professional doing IT audit. And I'm also right now I'm in HR, taking care of, people issues. So you can see what flexibility is about. I was never trained, to be here right now. So what happens, my brother, is that the need to change careers and professions will come with time. There are those who believe that when they train, as an engineer, they'll be engineers all their lives. I know engineers who are comedians. There are those of you who believe that when you train as a doctor, you'll be a doctor all your life. I know doctors who are, say, DJs, okay? Flexibility is another requirement for the new world of work. In that vein, I want to urge you to treat your, say, undergraduate training as a foundation. A foundation that will enable you to do pretty much anything else out there. That way you'll survive in the new world of work. But if you want to be trained as an accountant, you want to remain an accountant all your life, you will find it very difficult to land an accounting job. Then you get demoralized, you get into drugs and alcohol and stuff like that, and then you don't have a career no more. I'm sorry. Okay? So flexibility is the hallmark of the new world of work. Changing from one employer to another, changing from one role to another, changing from one career to another. Okay? That is the hallmark of the new place of work. Okay? Great. The second question was around an assurance as to whether, was it Omondi? Omondi is worried. Is it Omondi?
Yes.
Yes. You're worried as to whether, technology is taking over and whether your training is good enough, so to make you compete, at par with technology. You don't have to compete with technology because you can't. Okay? No one can. We produce technology, but we can't compete them because they are much faster. They are not, you see, the way we are made is that we have two minds. Okay? We have a subconscious mind that is a lot more powerful than anything else okay? Working at 40 billion beats a second. But we have the conscious mind, which is what we use ordinarily to think, which, by the way, just controls about 5% of our life. And that's the misery of life. So we cannot compete technology because technology is a creation of our subconscious mind. Okay? It reflects those capabilities in us which we can't use. Our brains are a lot more powerful than the computer. But, ordinarily, you can't do what a computer does. QuickBooks will handle balancing of accounts in a matter of seconds, like 5 seconds. Work that can take an accountant a whole week. Do you see? So we are not here to compete with technology, but we are here to coexist and live side by side with technology. So the question you should be asking is, how am I going to be able to add value over and above what machines of the future are going to be able to do? Okay? So that's the question you should be asking me. Because when computers were introduced in the office in the 90s, people who resisted and they thought computers were going to take their work had to leave. But people who learned to use the computers are still there. You get it? Yes. So the question you should be asking your teachers is, teach me to add value to the automation, to the robots, that I'm going to meet in the office in the next couple of years. All right? Great. But computers, technology are not taking our place. Like I told you, there are growing professions. I'll give you a little bit of history. According to generations, you see, we first pre-existed in mostly hunter-gatherer, and I don't know whether in Kenya we still have hunters and gatherers, don't we? And then we moved on to the agrarian age, isn't it? You see, as we moved on from hunter-gatherer to agrarian, some jobs were lost because hunters lost their jobs. The excitement of having to go to the bush to look for fruits and animals to slaughter for food, that one went. But then they now found job in farms because now they had to do agriculture near their homes. Do you see? When the first industrial revolution came with tractors and factories, you see, some jobs were killed because the work of plowing was taken away. Although we still pretty much do that in the third world, the work of plowing farms was taken away by tractors. Okay? So some jobs will go naturally when we change from one technology or one existence or one civilization to the next. But as that happens, new jobs are created, new careers are created. So you need not worry at all. Because every generation, every civilization that comes out comes with its own opportunities. And therefore, you should be asking yourself, how do I position myself to be able to exploit those new opportunities that will come with this age of information and automation?
More questions? Moderator, we have questions in front.
Okay, thank you. My name is Alex Martin. Allow me ask you this question. Mr. Sam, I can see you are once a teacher, and most of us here at Lukenya University are teachers. What really excited you to move from that job of being a teacher to a computer science manager, or I can see another job there? What really excited you, or what were some of the challenges that you faced until you decided to move away from that job of being a teacher? Thank you.
Another question?
I think I can answer that singly because that's a very powerful question, and it resonates with the crowd. If you have teachers here, I think you're a good place to be, because teachers are some of the most flexible professionals I know. A teacher can do virtually anything, because come to think about it, who creates doctors? Who creates engineers? So how come we can't come those things ourselves? All right? But as to what motivated me to leave, I'm still teaching pretty much, okay? But in another realm of life, because I'm a corporate teacher. As a trainer, I teach, but now I teach adults, isn't it? I teach people on how to improve their work skills, okay? Which is still pretty much teaching, Alex, okay? Now, it's not a good story to tell how I left teaching, so I usually don't like going back there. But just in case you want to know, I went for December holidays 1 year back in 2022, and I never went back to school. So it was a decision that I made, which was not very popular with the people around me. Back at home, they prayed because they thought I was lost. I was leaving a job to no job. But sometimes there is no better time to move on. And this will happen to very many of you, because you'll find that sticking with that one career all your life is sort of boring. We are in a very rich environment. Just in case you don't know, very rich environment. There are lots of work to be done out there. And you can change your career as many times as you want, because that makes you live longer. That makes you more excited and motivated. But doing one work all your life, I find that boring. So I left teaching because I thought the next big thing I would be is become a school principal in some village somewhere deep in the country. And I wouldn't be here right now.
The next question. There's some questions in the crowd. Let's answer those first.
Okay, thank you for this one. It's good that we are being enlightened on how we should be, and we should cope in the life of today. My question is, as much as we are talking about flexibility in careers, but even the education system that is coming now is based on a career that someone is gonna start training from the word go as from class 6 and is expected to continue in the same direction until they come out of the schools or higher institutions like the university we are now. How is it expected that someone who has trained for something else to be flexible, on the other hand, to fit somewhere that they are never trained to fit? The second question goes, how are we so certain that with the training that we have got in different field of careers are that flexible that will conform to the way that the careers that we are shifting to ought to have got from any other person who must have been trained for particularly that profession. The third question on this, how do we expect the maximum results out of someone who has been trained for something else to give or to make us yield the best out of something out of doing something they were never trained to do? Otherwise, thank you.
That is the most beautiful question that I have had. Wow, I like the cool. You are kijana mpole, but I like how analytical your mind works. So let me answer that question. I mean those three questions all in one, because they all rotate around the same thing. Right now, and the new world of work that we're talking about, and the world of careers, things are such that we are laying emphasis, less and less emphasis about qualifications, about papers, about training, about degrees, if you wish, and more emphasis on skills, on creativity, on innovation. Because what is required of a worker right now is not efficiency around the known. It's not being able to execute that work which you've been trained on and which you've done and have experience on so that you are very efficient. No. It's being able to solve new and emerging problems which require creativity and innovation. Do you see? Which requires thinking out the box. You've been trained as a doctor, okay? But you have machines, you have AI machines that are able to do the work that you do. Machines right now can do surgery, even brain surgery, okay? Even read MRI photographs and give interpretations and do prescriptions. Right now, if you're sick, you go online, you'll find a doctor who you can actually talk to, and you get a prescription. So what I'm saying, my brother, is that yes, you'll train as a teacher, okay? But we also have e-learning websites, okay? Right now, there is, and let me tell you this, there is possibly no training you get here which you cannot get from home if you have a network. Do you believe that? You believe that? Yes, so that's where we are. We come here because it's traditional to come to school. But it's not that if we didn't come to school, we wouldn't learn. Okay? Because there are educational facilities online. You get? Yeah. Mark what I've said about skills. That the new place of work is less and less about degrees and qualifications, but more and more about skills and innovation. Being able to solve emerging problems. Because you are not trained with new problems, new challenges, in school, but you should be able to use the foundational training that you have to tackle new and emerging problems, like climate change, okay? Yeah, like social disorder, right? So there are emerging issues both in the office and at home that we should be able to deal with. And if you're going to rely on your traditional training to handle those, you won't hack it. So you want to be more creative, more innovative, okay? So use your training here as a foundation, as a springboard, okay? To get onto that other innovation and creativity platform. That is the kind of mindset that you need to have. So don't be in that realm of, I trained as a teacher, so I have to be a teacher. No. I trained as an engineer, so I have to be an engineer. No. I trained as an accountant, so I was just chatting with Christopher, and he was telling me, and that sort of answers a question that was asked before. Accountants do all types of jobs. When you have time, interact with our DJs, ask them what they were trained in. Okay? They went to college. They have a degree, but ask them was their degree on DJ? The question is no, the answer is no. Okay? But now they are earning their money right there. Okay? So flexibility is the in thing. If you're going to be straying on the straight path of I was trained as a doctor, hence a doctor, then you'll find it. We have doctors out here who don't have work, don't we? Thank you.
So we're going to take one question from the people who are watching us online.
Thank you very much. I'm Winifred Murugi, a fourth-year student pursuing Bachelor of Commerce, specialist in finance. I'm very privileged to meet you today, and I don't take that one for granted. I have one question from one of our students. The student seems to have faced the scammers, the online scammers. So I just need a bit of clarification on, you know, nowadays we are having so many jobs, online jobs, but it has not come to our consent that there are so many scammers outside here. So you find that I personally, I've tried the online jobs, but you find that there are so many people who are outside there so that they can just get money from me rather than from benefiting from them. So is there any way that I can use so as to identify who are these specific scammers or who are these people who are going to scam me when I just want to work from online? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oops, this is super sensitive. All right, thank you. Did you say your faith? Winnie. All right, Winnie. Thank you. That's a super question. That's a question of the future. And the answer is simple. Just Google it. You see, when you're online, you can actually cross-check every contact that you make. Okay? I cannot tell you how to do it. But if you suspect, and if you meet someone online who's asking you for money, okay? If you meet someone online who's asking you for money, that's most possibly a scammer. All right? Yes. But you can cross-check. Okay? Just go to Google and find out about that particular website, you know, its activities, because everything you want to know is online. All right? Including cross-checking whether you are dealing with a legitimate employer or partner or not. Yes. Did you say we have online questions? Or our time is over? Almost. Okay, last questions.
Okay, thank you. Our time is almost over, and I have a question for you, Samaduke. Let's assume I've gone to an industry or an organization for an interview. How do I know that I'm much prepared for the interview? And how will I conduct myself during that interview to make sure that I'm going to be particularly chosen out of the many? Yeah.
All right, Sophie. That's a very common question, okay? I wish I had the time to prepare you for an interview, but I don't, all right? You know, that's like telling, okay. So the short answer, Sophie, is that we have coaches, okay? We have interview coaches. There are people out there who leave because they can prepare you for an interview. And they tell you everything you need to know, okay? Even how to answer questions. So it's a long process, which you have to pay to be taken through so that you're trained, so that you can attend interviews and pass interviews. And that actually is the problem that we are having right now. Because you have people who are so fluent, so very smooth, during the interview. But when you give them a job, the story is very different. Okay? So it's one thing to pass an interview and quite another to do the job. However, if what worries you is how to pass an interview, there are professionals out there who can prepare you for an interview. Okay? And we don't quite have a lot of time. Other than being presentable and being fluent in whatever language, because communication is important. Because if you're going to demonstrate capability and skills to a panel, then you must communicate properly. Okay? Yes. So communication, presentability, and then basically knowing your craft. You need to understand the job for which you have applied. All right? And be in a position to demonstrate. If it's experience or the past, you want to relate that experience with the kind of work that they're going to give you to do. But otherwise, I think that's something that you can get from professionals. Thank you.
So the career session seems to have ended, and he gave a website where you can ask him more questions. So he gave a website. You can ask more questions directly to him, but he has answered most of the basic questions that he had. Because we're running out of time and we have 2 sessions, we have to give the other session to some time here. Sawa? So back to the DJs.
In the interest of time, we are switching on to our next session. It is on financial education. And those who still have questions which have not been addressed and they would like that they be addressed, we request you write the questions. We have our team who are working there. They'll be picking the questions. We have that young man there, and I think there is another guy somewhere. So if you have a question, you put it down, you give it to him. And then we are live on Lukenya University Facebook page. You can follow, and if you have another question which is burning, you can put it under the comment section. So I welcome our next moderators for the next session.
Thank you.
All right, my name is Barasa Duncan. Thank you so much for sitting here and listening to us. Barasa Duncan is my name. I do community development, a 4th-year student I am, together with my moderator here.
Marion Wanjikunjoroge, a student here at Lukenya University, doing community development. You are all invited for this session.
It's going to be a very interesting session. If you have any question, feel free to ask. It's about financial education. Anything dealing with finance, write your question down. If you can raise your hand, then you'll be chosen. Feel free to do it because it's something that is going to be of benefit to us. At this moment, let me welcome Mr. Ndengo to come in front and Madam Clarice. Thank you. Clap for them as they come.
So, Madam Clarice and Mr. Ndegwa, how are you doing? Well, let's begin with Mr. Ndegwa there.
Thank you very much. I am doing okay, save for the heat. Lukenya here in Tutuande is quite hot.
Yeah, true.
Thank you.
Madam Clarice?
Good afternoon. Is it good afternoon or morning? Good morning. I am delighted. The weather is quite hot. We are adapting. So very delighted to be here this session to learn together. I'm a believer that every day is school day. Thank you.
Okay. Now, guys, today we are going to talk about financial education. Everything in life is financial. Your education is financial. If you buy, you go to the canteen, you use money, that's financial. Everything today is in monetary value. So I would urge you, if you have questions as we begin our question about financial whatever, about financial matters, please kindly ask as we discuss this session. And pia maswali ya kuinama, si tunainamanga sana watu wa campus, si ndio? Unakosa kapesa kidogo. So today we are going to learn how to manage your financial resources. Sawa? So, let me begin with Madam Clarice. Can you tell us okay, let me put it this way. To a person who's not learned, can you just give them a background of what is financial goal? Just give an overview.
So once again, good morning. Financial goal. So basically, we are here to talk about financial planning. So money sits at the center of this discussion. And now that brings in a financial goal. We know that there are many goals that we can achieve in life without really putting monetary value to them. But if you are to count out of the things you want to achieve in life, you'll realize that many of the things we want to achieve in life have a monetary attraction to it, or they have a monetary value. They have a cost. We just sang our national anthem this morning, and one of those lines talked about raha na ustawi. You know, there cannot be ustawi without having to put money to it. So even as a government, every goal that we must achieve, we must put value to it. Basically, money is the nucleus of our lives. It sits right at the center of everything, or most of the things that we must achieve in this life. Right from the time a child is conceived to the time we leave this earth, for even us to have a decent burial, money is involved. So you will realize that a financial goal is something you want to achieve, but which requires for you to spend, or which has a cost to it. And the cost is relative. It could be a very small goal that you want to achieve, it will still require money. It could be a big goal that you want to achieve, it will still require money. So even as a learner at our level, we must have financial goals. And depending on how we behave with our money, we are likely to either achieve these goals or not. So the main subject is money, because it sits right at the center of most of the things that we want to achieve. And so that also translates into the fact that most of the goals we achieve in life have a monetary value. So to a layman out there, a financial goal is a desire that I commit to achieve, but one that I must spend money on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Clarice. The other question is to Mr. Ndegwa. What are some of the criteria to use in order to set your financial goal? As a student, as an adult, or an old person, in matters maybe long-term, short-term, and medium? What are some of the criteria to use when setting a financial goal?
Thank you very much. It is very important to understand the different goals that you have. You have a short-term goal, you have a long-term goal, and you have a medium-term goal. And I believe as students at present, your short-term goal is to pass your exam, which I believe are starting next week. Okay? So it is important that you make a plan of a short-term goal. So when you start working and you're earning an income, it is very important you ask yourself, what short-term goals do I have? Okay? So you list them down. It is very important that in anything you are attempting to do, always write it down. And you say, this month, I want to buy 1, 2, 3 things. Because when you start working, your short-term goals will be to furnish your house. So you want a bed, you want a seat, you want a TV, you want a fridge. So you lay out a plan on how you want to achieve that. Then you have your medium-term goals. And you have your long-term goals. And I'll make reference to the Bible, where the Pharaoh had a dream. And he requested the population to come and interpret it for him. And one man was brought to him. His name was Joseph. And he interpreted the dream of the Pharaoh. Okay? So the Pharaoh had a dream where he saw 7 fat cows and 7 thin cows. Then he also saw 7 very healthy reeds and 7 skinny reeds. Okay? And Joseph's interpretation to the Pharaoh was that there will be 7 good years and there will be 7 bad years. You've read that. Okay? And Joseph was asked by the Pharaoh, so what should I do to ensure that during the 7 bad years, I am able to feed the population? What did Joseph tell the Pharaoh? Anyone who knows what was the plan? They built granaries and they set aside a fifth of the harvest. A fifth of the harvest is 20%. Okay? 1/5 is 20%. So once the Pharaoh did that, the amount of food that was stored in the granaries, which was a fifth of each year's harvest, was able to feed them during the time they had a famine. Okay? Not only were they on to feed the people within Egypt, but they also invited people from other countries. So the secret to savings is that you need to set aside at least 20% of your income. So you are currently studying, you'll start working, you'll be in agriculture, you'll be in tech, you'll be a teacher. But all of you will be earning an income. It is the saving of that income that will set you apart in your long-term goals. So ensure that you're saving a percentage of your income. There is no magic figure. It is only a percentage. So ensure that you follow such strategies to ensure that you're able to secure your future. Because indeed you'll have good years and you'll have bad years. Thank you.
Okay. So the next you're going to budgeting. Mr.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ndengo, for that. Now, we as students, sometimes we do budget, but maybe we over budget, or sometimes we under budget. Sometimes as students, we might be having money, let's say help, but within 2 days, that money is over. So what is the best criteria for budgeting for us to fit in everything that we want to do? Thank you.
Okay, so budgeting. So basically, what is a budget? A budget is a spending plan. A budget is a tool that tells you where your money is gone. So it brings us back to the subject of money. So again, for us to run with a budget, money is involved. For you to run a successful budget, regardless of what level you are in life, you must place value to your money. As a student, most of us are probably spending money from our parents, from the help, from our sponsors, and from our side hustles. It starts by you valuing the money that comes through your hands. 100 Kenya shillings can buy 2 loaves of bread, 400 grams. 100 Kenya shillings can also buy candy, and just chew it and still feel hungry. 50 shillings could be what you need for your 3 eggs for your next meal. 50 shillings is what you need to jump onto that motorbike on a distance you will have rather walked. So as basic as that, put value to your money. Because if you don't put value to your money, then you end up spending your money just anyhow. It puts you in a situation where you have no control over your money. Are there any times when you ask yourself where your money went? Help just came, Your parents just sent you 2,000 Kenya shillings. Or my income just came. But then 2 days down the line, I'm asking myself, iyo do ilienda wapi, by the way? You can't really account for your money because you didn't have a budget, you didn't have a shopping list, and you didn't put value to your money. So when you're spending that 10 shillings, you don't feel the pain. You look at it as very little money. But remember, 10 shillings is what you need to buy salt to serve you for a whole month in a normal household. So the moment you put value to your money, budgeting becomes easy because you need to get to a point where you have traction of where every of your shilling is going. Remember, as a student, you're not even spending your own money. So there needs to be a lot of humility because you're spending money that doesn't belong to you. The help money doesn't belong to you. It is a loan, and debt is not income. Debt is never income. So the excitement of getting that money and spending until you drop and then 2 days down the line, unainama. It's all about getting to the basics, getting that shopping list. So I would want for you guys to do a small exercise that you can analyze at the end of this session. Just make a list of the things you spent money on yesterday. And I mean each and every of the items you spent money on yesterday. And then look at those items and categorize them into the things you really needed and the things you did not need. And that is where you are going to get the money to avoid your kuinama or to start that short-term goal and that medium-term goal. Because every day, for most of us, there is just some money that we spend anyhow. And so back to budgeting. Most of us struggle with budgeting because we think the money we have is not enough. But it's not enough for what? What is your current financial situation? Financial freedom starts when we establish where we are at in terms of financial muscle. That I am able to accept my current financial situation and try as much as possible to fit in, to live within my means. Because even at campus, we come from different financial backgrounds. Some of us could be royalties, some of us could be bourgeoisie, some of us could be mid-class, some of us could be mass market, some of us could be poor, for lack of a better word. So for me to be financially free, I must establish where I am at in terms of financial wellness. And that is what makes me even budget for what I can afford. So when my help comes in, I must remember where I have come from. So I don't get excited because 14,000 shillings has come through and forget that it takes my family to sell 3 cows to raise this money, so that I don't just squander it, but remember that I left home to make home better. And the only way is to ensure that every coin that comes through my hands is spent wisely. Budgeting is not enough. Execution is difficult. There are many times you even write that budget, and then when you get out here, you end up not sticking to it. Let us remember that there's something we want to pursue with this budget. Remembering our financial situations are not the same. And considering that financial goal that I want to achieve that is pegged on this money. There is a basic budgeting tool or a budgeting formula that most people use, which we call the 50-30-20 rule. Basically, every money that comes through your hands that you want to use, make sure you divide it into at least 3 portions. 50% to be used on your basic things, the things you must spend on. And underline in bold and italics, must, the things you must spend on. So on that list of you as your journal, what are the things you must have spent on them? And if you don't spend on them, your quality of life is jeopardized. And then 30% on your wants, the things that enhance your life, but the things you can do without or the things you can postpone. That is where our social welfare comes in. We are social beings. On many days, you find yourself contributing money towards a funeral, a sick person, a baby shower, a trip. That money should be within your 30%. And then 20% must be a saving. Why must it be a saving? And I'm a student. There is always the possibility of impossibility every day we wake up. There is always possibility that your parents may not be able to send you money next week. There is possibility that may not even be alive and working. So the money you have saved is what will get you back home to start your life. So you can't wait until you're employed to start saving. Savings and the journey of financial freedom, like any culture, needs for you to learn it, accept it, and then practice. You've just done a list of the things you spent money on. From tomorrow, the things you consider as not really important and you spent money on them, you can only adapt to the culture of financial freedom if you start practicing tomorrow not to spend on the things you spent money on that are not important. And then ensure to work with the shopping list. We are not elephants. We may not memorize everything we want to buy. Have your shopping list. Stick to that shopping list because money is very emotional. It makes you feel all these nice things. Suddenly you are very wealthy. You are the big man bazoo of the campus. You know, you must show off. Then it lasts very short. You spend until you fall and then you crumble through the whole semester. Now that brings in Kuinama. But then what will it call for me to ensure that I stick to my budget. I have 5 principles that help me with my financial planning that if you inculcate in your lives, they'll help you stick to that budget. The first principle is discipline. The second is discipline. The third is discipline. The fourth is discipline. And the fifth is discipline. Basically, discipline around our 5 senses. That I'll see it, but then I'll remember it's not in my budget. I'll even touch it and feel it, but remember it's not on my shopping list. It will smell nice, but it's not within my buying capability. If you are disciplined around that, then you are working towards financial freedom, regardless of where you are at in your journey of financial wellness. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Clap for her. Having said that money is emotional, I really love that. And speaking again of debt as not as an income, not being as an income. Now, we sometimes as students, we get ourselves engaging into these mobile loans. You see, we get borrowing here, borrowing there, to an extent when someone calls, you don't even pick the call because you know this one maybe is a certain mobile loan calling me. So how do you manage your loans and debt? Yeah, that is a question. Mr. Ndenge, you can answer that.
Thank you very much. I think in life, there is something that you need to be working with in your mind, which is self-control. If you do not have self-control, you're very weak. So as Clarice was talking about going to a supermarket and you're seeing fancy things and you have money, if you lack self-control, then you'll not be able to make a wise decision. You know you're supposed to wake up early and come to class, but you lack self-control. You decide to sleep. In terms of managing debt, it is lack of self-control. So it is important that you work on your self-control. You say, I'm not going to do it. And if you do it, you already understand that you're weak and you lack self-control. Most of you are here because you controlled yourself through high school, you passed, and you're here. Okay? All of you are intelligent. But there are some people who pass exams and some people who fail. They fail not because they do not understand, because they lack self-control. They cannot get themselves to go to class and study. Wanaenda kuinama. Okay? They are going to drink somewhere. Okay? They are not coming to class. They are not studying. Anasema nitakumbuka. So it is very important to have self-control in life. If you have self-control, or what she was referring to as discipline, then you will go very far. In your career, in your investments, in your own personal life, when you have self-control, you will lead a very, very beautiful life. Thank you.
Let me just add onto the debt issue. Before you borrow, you must also ask yourself why you are borrowing and what is the cost of that money. Because there are also many occasions where you need the money. Like urgently, you must borrow. You know, we find ourselves in situations, even as professionals, where I have a project, but I don't have the funds. And so I must seek out for funding through a loan. So for us as young people, I think one of the easiest loans that we access are mobile app loans, because they probably just look at the history, the duration you have had your line, and the number of transactions that you make, and then we are given money. So why are you borrowing? Is it extremely necessary that you secure that loan? And even if it's necessary, do you have any avenues of a cheaper loan? Is it possible to speak to a friend so that they give you money that will not attract interest? Do you have a relative, a friend who is capable to probably get you out of that situation? And now, even on occasions where you have successfully accessed the loan, what are you spending the money on? Are you spending the loan on the intended reason for borrowing? How many times do we borrow and then we don't spend the money on the very item we borrowed the money for? So yes, you are in need. You must borrow. Please look out for the cheapest loan that you can access. Do not go for quick loans that are very costly. Remember, nobody opens their shop to make a loss. So that quick loan must really attract high interest. There's nobody in business to just make you happy. They should be making money, and they'll means a lot of money from you. So where necessary, borrow a cheaper loan that gives you a longer period of payment. Because the reason you're not picking that call is because your loan probably requires you to pay within 2 weeks. And within those 2 weeks, the money has not come through. So always look out for cheaper loans. Also, you can actually use your loan to help you start growing your assets. I said a loan is not an income because it's not your money, and many times you've not worked for it. So you actually become a slave to the lender. So how do you make loans work for you? If possible, access these loans, but use them to start growing your assets. If you can borrow 2,000 Kenya shillings in January, for instance, and then buy 2 hens and leave them in the village, and you make sure there's a cock around. So by the end of the year, those 2 hens could have laid 30 eggs each, hatched 28 chicks from each. So you have 100 pieces of chicken in your compound that you can sell and improve your life. Remember, you only took a loan of 2,000 Kenya shillings. So even if you were to sell each of your chicks at 200 bob, and you have 200 of them, you have 4,000 plus. The hens are still there. So we can actually use loans to start growing our assets. So it's not entirely that loans are bad. But when a loan is very expensive and it requires you to pay within a very short time, that is a bad loan because it starts to corrode your wealth. But again, we can't talk about debt and not credit. There are also times where, even on campus here, someone requires for you to lend them money. I want to give you a tip. Comrades rarely pay back. So if you must give them money, give money you are willing to lose. If they're asking for 10,000, give them 1 because they have asked from 10 other people. It's very rare to find someone just walking to you to ask for money. They have asked from others also. And when all those people have given them, it becomes difficult to pay back. So you have been given money to spend. If you must give it out, give out money you are willing to lose so that you don't become enemies. Thank you.
So at this point, you are going to have 3 questions. Yes? Take a microphone. 3 questions. Yes?
Thank you. My name is Hassan Abdi. A student, a finalist, at the same time, a finance fanatic. My question is, let's be a bit realistic. We are preparing ourselves for the future, for the outside world. Now, my question is, in the stock exchange, we have bonds, we have equities, we have the crypto, we have shares, buying, selling. Now, with all due respect, when I wake up in the morning at 5 a.m., the first thing I do is that I go to the New York Stock Exchange, look at them, look at the indices, what goes up, what goes down. Now, can you be a bit more flexible and tell us more about the stock exchange? Thank you.
Thank you once again. I feel that I will never lack a question to ask anywhere in my environment to inquire. Hello, I think it's okay. So, I'm gonna start with my names because I'm not just used to before. I never said. I'm Odoyo Tony Brian, a 2.1 student taking education. I want to ask this question. In my head, I have a queue of questions, but I'm going to ask just a few. The first question goes, even in the current world, Africa as a continent is still characterized as an underdeveloped continent due to the fact that as much as we are so much into making much money, but we never have got plans for things like disasters, calamities that do plow back money that have ever been planned for something else. I'm trying to mean we are so centered at making profits and not considering whether things that are around us are ever going to be well as they seem to be at that moment. That always brings a challenge to our financial goals. So you are going to tell us or explain to us on how we are able to manage and maintain the things that may arise in consideration with our financial goals. The second question is, as much as we must be centered to make money, make profits out of every single cent that drops into our hands. We have to make a profit out of it. But do we give a space for consideration for factors like the environment? Because we can never be so centered that we are making profit and not considering the environment, because it is the environment that gives us the ability and the capability of making what we have. For instance, we, as an industry, you may come up with an industry. Do we consider that the population outside and even the pollution that the industry is going to cause, are we having considerations on how to help on those ones to make sure that the conditions remain the same, that we still have to make the profits and maximize on the sense that we have invested? And then the third question and the very last is, life is both reality and sometimes it is fantasy. As much as we may be having dreams of making and yielding much money or much profit off of little sense we have, is that we must, is there a consideration that there is going to be a fall, and if a fall comes in, how are we going to cope to rise to the levels that we ever fantasized to reach? Thank you.
I think we can.
I'm Harun
There's one more
Njuguna.
question.
I'm Harun Njuguna, a first-year student. I'm doing education arts, but I'm very much worried. I'm about to become a slave. A slave in this way. I finish my 4-career job. Sindio? Then I go out there, I'm employed as a teacher. Then I'm paying my 50,000 salary. But what happens? The government will tax me 10K, and then I'm supposed to live like a teacher. I have a family. I have a mommy who have to ask me for 2,000 and pay other bills. So I'm left with nothing. And yet, you want me to be creative and innovate for something. How will I be able to invest? How will I be able to save some money so that I can be that extra person? So I'm a bit nervous, but I hope I have driven my point at home. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Benson, the most disciplined boy in this school. So my question goes, I was reading through this booklet, and now according to me, you've said that we can deposit as low as Kenya shillings 10 bob whatever is here, and the minimum withdrawal is 480 Kenya shillings. On my side, I can manage finance if I have the finance, but now I don't have any finance. Are you going to give us the finance, or what are you trying to tell us? Because on my side, I have no finance. If I have finance, I can manage myself. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I love the questions and I'm so happy for this interactive session. Before they tackle those questions, could you kindly talk about the investments, the types of investments and the best times to invest?
Thank you. I think someone asked that question.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about investments and the different types of investments that are there. But my focus will be on the financial markets. So we do have treasury bonds, and I'm sure you've heard about treasury bonds. So to make it simple for you, a treasury bond is you as an individual giving the government money for a period of more than 1 year. Okay? So when you give the government money, they assure you that they are going to pay you interest, what they sometimes call a coupon. So they pay you part of your interest. Let's say it's a 10% treasury bond for 5 years. So for every 6 months, they are going to be paying you your interest. Because it's a 10% bond, so every 6 months they're going to be paying you 5% of the interest. So if you give them an amount, let's use 100,000 for ease of calculation. So they will be paying you 5,000 shillings every 6 months. Okay? And at the end of 5 years, they are going to return to you your 100,000 plus the coupon of that 6 month period. We are together. Okay? So that is a treasury bond. Now, there is a treasury bill. Again, a treasury bill is giving money to the government, but for a period of less than 1 year. Okay? So that is what they call a bill. And then you give them an amount if it's a 91-day treasury bill. Then after 91 days, they return to you the principal plus interest. Tuko pamoja? So that is the difference between a treasury bond and a treasury bill. Okay? Then we go to banks. So when you give money to the bank, they call it a deposit. Okay? And they can give you interest. If it's a current account, you find most banks don't give you any interest on your money. So you're keeping it there. But sometimes there are investments where you negotiate with the bank and they give you interest. So they tell you, we'll hold your money for 3 months and we're going to give you interest on your money after the 3 months. So that's a bank deposit. But when the bank gives you money, they call it a loan. Okay? Now, we have shares. There are companies that have grown and they have gone to the stock market and sold part of their business to the general public. Okay? So we have companies that are listed in the securities exchange. Nowadays it's called Nairobi Securities Exchange. Okay? So an institution takes its business to the stock exchange or the securities exchange, and the public are allowed to buy part of that company. So how the securities exchange work is that you own part of that company. So when they make a profit, you earn what they call a dividend. Okay? And then because there is demand for that share, okay, its price varies. So if there are so many people who want to buy a certain share, you'll find that the price will go up. So if you bought it at 10 shillings and it goes up to 15 shillings, you'll find individuals who want to sell it, okay? So that you make the profit of 5 shillings for each share you are holding, okay? And to participate in treasury bonds and shares, you have to open what they call a CDSC account, okay? So you'll go to a stockbroker, and stockbrokers are many in the country. You go to a stockbroker, they open and set up for you a CDSC account, and you're able to buy shares, or if you want to buy, you can buy bonds, okay? Now, there is an alternative to those arrangements, what is called unit trust, okay? And that is the paper in front of you, those who have that flyer. The unit trust arrangement is where you participate in an investment, what we call a collective investment scheme, where there is a fund manager, for instance, Old Mutual, who now go and negotiate for the rates with banks, who invest in treasury bonds or invest in shares on your behalf. All you have to do is open an account and put your money there. And they'll ensure that you earn a return from your investment. Okay? So unit trusts are a collective arrangement where it eliminates the need for you to go and start checking on which share to buy or which bank to deposit your money in. So we have, for instance, an arrangement called a money market fund. How many of you have heard of a money market fund? Anyone? About a money market fund? Okay? None of you have heard about it. Newspaper. You need to write that down. So write down money market fund, go do some research on that. But I'll briefly talk about it. This is an investment where you put in your money and the fund manager invests in bonds, treasury bills, and bank deposits. And the main purpose of this money market fund is to protect your principal. Okay? So it's a secure fund and it earns a return. For instance, the Old Mutual Money Market Fund, you'll get a return of between 9 and 9.3% per annum. Okay? So when you put your money there, it is invested. And that's the flyer you have in front of you for *480#. Once you set up your account and you put in money there, it starts earning a return. Okay? No matter how little it is. And it works like a bank account. When you want your money, you can withdraw. And it will not tell you that you've not earned interest. It will tell you that this is the interest you've earned for the month. Okay? And it works with the power of compounding interest. So at each new day, the principal for yesterday plus interest becomes principal for the following day. Okay? And you'll find that most individuals put their money in such arrangements so that they are not in their bank account where they can quickly consume it. Okay? And it is earning a return while in a money market fund. So there are other funds that exist, like equity fund, which is for shares. There is a bond fund, which is primarily for bonds. And there is another one called a balanced fund, which is for shares and treasury bonds and bills and bank deposits. So it is important you do some background on that, because that's the first avenue as a student where you will start in terms of saving the money that you start earning as your first paycheck. So it will be important that you're sending money to an arrangement where it allows you to put in as little as 10 shillings. You cannot get a return from 10 shillings from a bank, but you can get a return from 10 shillings from a money market fund. Okay? So we are trying to make investments accessible to every individual in the country. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. There's the question on investments. I hope I have answered your question on investments. The gentleman who asked the question on investments, I can see him there. There was a question by Tony Bryan where he talked about, in the investment world, what are we doing in terms of, I'll call it disaster preparedness, because anything can happen, and what are we doing about that? You also combine that question with climate change. What is the investment world doing in terms of climate change? So there are investments that are geared towards supporting causes. I think in the recent past, there was what is called a green bond. Okay? Nowadays, we have buildings that are called green building, where they're ensuring that the type of construction that is done is friendly to the environment. In terms of investments, the people putting in money in the investments like the bonds. I've talked about bonds and how they work, and there are people who are putting in money on green bonds, that they ensure that the return that is coming out of it is going to participate in climate change. Okay? So the investment world is also aware about what is happening in the world, the climate, and disaster preparedness, saving for a rainy day. So that is happening in the financial world. I'll allow my colleague to talk about the question asked by the gentleman at the back, how to save if your income is low. And there is a gentleman, I think I'll answer that one, when he mentioned that at present, there is no income. So what are we giving you? I'll answer that one, then I give back the microphone to my panelists. Just remember that we have been where you are now. Okay? I went to a university far away from here, in Juja. Okay? So we've been where you are. We've been in a classroom like this one. We've sat for exams. We've been in secondary schools. We've been in primary schools. We've been through the journey. There is no shortcut. Okay? You will not wake up tomorrow with money. Again, making reference to what I mentioned, self-control. So at present, your biggest goal is to ensure you finish your education with a good grade. Get that out of the way. Okay? Then go out there and see what comes. Woe unto you if you go out there with poor grades or you've not graduated. Then the chances for you become slimmer. So at present, the task for you is to finalize on your education. Just be good at that. In terms of finances, they will come your way. You live here, you will find a job, or you'll start a business, and you'll have that income. What we are giving you today here is skills. We are sharing with you skills that have helped us and have helped other individuals. Okay? So if you get 2,000 shillings today, just remember, you need to have self-control. Usiende kuinama. Okay? Then you'll have money to save. But if that money you get is for enjoyment, then you lose focus and you'll not be able to go anywhere. So I'll request my colleague to respond to how to save if your income is low. Thank you. Please appreciate.
Thank you. I will start again by defining what financial wellness is. And financial wellness or financial education is the ability for you to understand your current financial situation and to make deliberate decisions regarding your current and future life. And now to the question of this professional who just graduated and they got their job. You have referred to a teacher and the money they get is not quite enough. They have quite a lot of responsibilities, but there's still the expectation that they need to thrive. They need to save, they need to invest and meet their financial goals. problems start with lack of information. You have no excuse. You have been informed today. So that you don't make the same mistakes the people in the last 50 years or the mistakes that I made. You guys are at the peak of your education journey, and it's important that you're living with information on how to manage your first earning. I never had that information. But where do problems start? I mentioned that money is emotional. And one of the emotions that money triggers is confidence and this sudden power, authority to exercise and prove to the immediate environment that you've made it. So problems begin with our first income. So as a graduate teacher who has just gotten employed and my net salary is 26,000 Kenya shillings, what do I need to do? I need to go back and establish what my financial situation is before I even spend 1,000 bob from that 26,000 Kenya shillings. But naturally, would want to celebrate. Like most of us spend our first income on nice things. Naturally, we call it, in a layman's, we call it kupigia mwili pole. Ni mwili ya nani unapigia pole? Yako. You have a lot of time to pigia this mwili pole in your old age and when you die. There's nothing like kupigia mwili pole. It should happen occasionally, but not with your first salary. But then that is what happens many a time with our first income. So problems begin because we don't spend our first income properly. We don't live within our means. So I'm a graduate teacher, but I want to live that like that teacher who has been working for 12 years, who has been getting an increment, who has invested in other avenues. So first things first, what is your financial situation? Live within that means and you will see yourself thrive even as a teacher. But the moment you start to prove to the world that you are the first graduate in your constituency, and people must know that you have been posted to your local school, and you must gather all of them to go and make them happy, problems start there. Because once you start spending beyond your means, you immediately get into bad debt. Bad debt because you are borrowing to service your basic needs. Because now what we do, have I been confirmed at work? Am I now permanent and pensionable? I pick the biggest loan. And so now out of this 26,000, I end up getting home with 4,000 Kenya shillings. Frustrations begin. And probably this money that I borrowed, I didn't even use it in the right way. We have seen successful teachers. Actually, in my village, the most successful people are teachers and nurses. They never earned much. They were just wise with the decisions they made with their money. And the most important one of them is the decision you make with your first income and the progressive income. But even if you have made those mistakes, there is no harm. You can always adjust your lifestyle. Even as a student today, you can adjust the kind of life you live. You can adjust the number of times you travel to Nairobi. You can change the number of meals you eat. Missing a meal has never killed anybody. If anything, people are now doing intermittent fasting for health issues. So missing a meal does not kill anybody. We went through that even us when we were in campus. So it is not something very new. And even in life, there are many times at a mimi na inama, you know. COVID has taught us that one interruption can render all of us jobless. And so each and every day that we live, we must bring in the element that a risk can occur that can render me unable to even get that income that I'm getting. And that's why it's important for us not only to establish our financial situation and live within our means, but if possible, reduce your bills to the bare bones. Reduce your expenses to the bare bones. Nobody will come knocking at your door because you have not had beef in a week. But when your things are thrown out because you've not paid rent, the whole community will know. So do what you can do at your space because you have the power. You have authority over your money and the direction it takes. There was also a question on when we are working towards growing our monies, the issue of losses and risks. Every investment, every saving, even life itself attracts risk. And so there will be occasions where that business will not be doing well. What do you do from there? Learn from that, get expertise, help where possible, and move on because there is no guarantee in this life. And as such, there may not be guarantee even on our goals that we want to achieve. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate. All right, do you have a question from online section? Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. At this moment, we are happy to interact with you. Let me take this opportunity to pose some of the questions that are flowing online. I have one question from Emmanuel Luchiri. How can you tell you are financially successful? Then, there are other questions from Boniface Atrori. How to treat uncertainties as a student? Then, the other question, in a situation where a student is given money for the whole semester, yes, he plans for everyday spending. However, in the way these uncertainties like Harambis, you may find that, okay, I've been given the money for the whole semester. I have planned for it very well, for each and every day expense. But all of a sudden, uncertainties like maybe Harambis in the church, or else I print. You know, when the parent is giving you the money, he or she doesn't consider the printing services. We come here in school, we are requested to print our assignments. We have paid for that. Then, how can we overcome this uncertainty? Maybe we've planned for all the money that we've been given, but some uncertainties like those ones come about. Then, can we borrow money for food? That's another question. Then, the last question. What is a debt management technique to pay loans? What is this debt management technique that you can use to pay loans? Thank you.
I love that and the curiosity to know many things. Actually, our students are very good and they want to learn a lot. You can tackle it kindly.
Okay, so the final question was on debt management. So I'll give you two approaches that you can use to manage your debt. Because most of us are actually in debt. So we have two main ones. We have the snowball and the avalanche. So the snowball method is where you arrange your debts from the lowest payment to the highest. So practically, for instance, I have 3 loans. One of the loans is 1,000 shillings I borrowed from a colleague. Then I have 5,000 Kenya shillings I borrowed from a mobile app. And then I have 50,000 Kenya shillings I borrowed from my merry-go-round. So I have 3 loans. One is small, costing 1,000, and one is costing 50,000 Kenya shillings. So Snowball teaches us to clear off fast our smallest loan. The moment you pay it out completely, at least you are remaining with 2 loans and not 3. Remember that for your bigger loan, you can negotiate to extend the term. But so it enables us to have lesser creditors. So instead of having 3 people call you to pay them, you have 2 people calling you to pay them. And then you have the avalanche or the avalanche, or yes, pronunciation may differ. So in the avalanche method, you need to list your loans from the highest interest loan to the lowest interest loan. Again, for instance, I have 3 loans. My loan number 1 is a mobile app loan that requires for me to pay a 30% interest every 2 weeks. And those are the loans we normally take because they are easy to access. And then I have, let's say, another loan I borrowed from a friend. They are charging me 10% per month. And then I have a loan from a cousin that they are not charging any interest. So out of these 3 loans, the loan with the highest interest is the one I should give the highest priority in terms of paying it off. Why? I may have borrowed just 10,000 Kenya shillings, but because it's attracting 30% every 2 weeks, if I'm not able to clear this loan within 2 months, it could be up to 100,000 Kenya shillings. So clear off first the most expensive loan, and then you walk into that order. Can I borrow for food? Occasionally, yes, but don't make it a habit. Why are you borrowing for food? There's a likelihood there was no value to your money. And there's a day you spent your money for food on something else. But when you are borrowing for food, buy for basic food. Don't borrow to go and buy sophisticated food just because it looks nice and it turns really nice behind the glass. If you must borrow for food, for basic food. You've also talked about anxieties. Let's call them emergencies. So the reason we budget is because we need to consider emergencies. Remember the 50-30-20 rule? 30% of that budgeting was meant for such things as those emergencies. That's why I said you can have your social welfare. Ile pesa unachangia watu, have it under your 30% of budgeting. Remember again, comrades, you are not spending your own money. Humility. If you must give in that forum, only give money that you have. Don't compete because the first person on that WhatsApp list has given 1,000. You quickly also go into a mobile app and borrow because you want to be seen to have contributed. You cannot pour from an empty vessel, and that calls even for money. Even in a fundraiser today, I cannot give what I don't have. If you have given your 50,000 and I have 100 shillings, I'm going to give 100. If you think it's so valueless, use it for transaction. Give what you have. Thank you.
There are some questions that have been written here, and I will read all of them. They are true. Do you guys issue loans? And what are your interest rates on deposits?
Thank you for the question. Old Mutual is in the business of banking through our subsidiary Faulu, and they do have facilities for borrowing. At present, I may not be able to tell you what is the interest rate they charge, because that is dependent on how much you're borrowing and for how long. But you may take a look at Faulu online. They do have DigiCash and the other facilities that they provide on the banking side. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Now, there is something that is kicking into my mind. Are these accounts real? And if they are real, do you issue bank cards for them? The old mutual accounts, are they real accounts? And if they are, do you really issue out the bank cards for the accounts?
For the investment account, I'll refer to it as an investment account. We do not have an ATM card that we issue. Okay? So you open an account and you're given a member number, and you receive correspondence via text and via email. Okay? So it is an investment account. You cannot go to the bank and withdraw that money. So we've been able to create that through the USSD *480#. So if you want to access money, you go through the platform of *480#, or you make a request via email to our offices. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. There is this other question. You know, our students here, most of them, they do struggle with paying their school fees. They struggle, getting money becomes a challenge. Now, my question goes like this. Do you offer bursaries and scholarships that can benefit our students here?
I think the respondent of that question is seated in the audience, Margaret. But I think it's something that I believe as an institution is something that they would consider. Okay, at present I cannot say if it is there or is something that is being worked on. However, supporting community development and supporting the community is something that is also at the heart of Old Mutual. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate. There is another question from online there, I think.
Okay, once again, there is another question. What are some of the disadvantages of investing? Thank you.
All right, one has asked, what are some of the disadvantages of investing? So I think they can tackle that. And if you have any other question, you can raise your hand, then they will tackle it. Thank you. What are some of the disadvantages of investing?
Thank you. There are some challenges that face investments. I'll not say there is a disadvantage, but there are challenges that face investments. And some of those challenges are that you may invest your money and you may incur a loss. Okay? So, like starting a business. Some of you have started a business and they have closed shop. Okay? Because you incurred a loss. Maybe attributable to poor decision making or change of what the customer requires. So in investments, there's also challenges that they face. Some of the challenges the investment market face is when there is a big sellout. Like before the elections, we saw very many foreigners taking out their money. Okay? So they were selling the shares, and the equities market have really dropped because of the sale of shares by foreigners who wanted to exit the market. So that is a challenge, okay? And some of them do come back. And during election years, we've seen that this has happened. So sometimes there are issues like war. During a period of war, you'll find that people are not interested in investing in a certain country. So when the country is peaceful, then you'll find that the investment environment is favorable. If the political environment is peaceful, then you'll find more people will want to invest their money. So the challenges are there that affect investments in the country. And the reason why you appoint fund managers who are experts in this field is to be able to balance that and ensure that the client does not suffer total loss. So by diversifying these investments. So if the shares are not performing well, there is something else that is performing well, and this money is redirected to that investment. So that is the challenges that we face when investing clients' money. Thank you.
Okay. You have a question?
Yeah. Okay. I'm asking about savings. Some of us, we have families. We will have families also in future. Now, my question is, how can you start helping your sibling or your child begin to save, or rather, how can you start building a saving culture in your sibling, younger sibling, or your child? Yeah.
A very good question. Unfortunately, most of us were never involved in our family's finances. I think the first time I ever had money to manage for myself is when I went to high school. And so I was given 1,000 Kenya shillings, which I finished within 6 days. And then I was on my own because nobody told me how I need to spend this money. So we need to start nurturing our young ones into money management by involving them in money matters as basic as sending them errands, and then when they bring balance, we can have a discussion. Out of the 100 shillings I gave you, you have come back with this because we bought this and this and this. Most of us are religious, and occasionally we do give offerings. We need to explain why. Like, out of the money we earned as a family, we have been putting away some money towards ensuring that we furnish our faith. We can also ensure that they know the value of money. One of the things I've done with my godchildren, I have like 8 of them, godchildren, like Mama wa Ubatizo for Christians, and apologies for using religion in the forum, is that I bring them to the table and then I buy candy. I buy sweets worth an equivalent of a meal. So I come and give each one of them. There is a brand that is common, that kids love. So I buy 8 pieces of them. And one of that candy costs like 160. So I buy each one of them one. And then I buy an equal value in terms of food. So I buy a packet of milk and the big loaf of bread, which costs 120. So I have given them their candy, each one of them, 8 of them. When they finish, I ask them, is any one of you hungry? And they say, yes! I'm like, you guys have eaten your money that is equivalent for the money that bought this food. So you can imagine, for that one piece of candy that each one of them had and still wants food, one loaf of bread for the equivalent amount of money can feed all of them and it will still remain. So when they understand the value of money from a young age, that instead of crying for a lollipop, I should be crying for, let's say, banana. That is how we start to inculcate the money culture. Again, if we have to make changes in the family, because sometimes when we make goals or when we set goals, it calls for us as a family to remove some of the things from our family expenses. That's why I said even as households to nainama. So if, for instance, we went out as family every Sunday, and I want to pull it out into once a month, I explain it to them. The reason we are not going out every Sunday is because we need to save the money we have been eating on Sunday so that we can go to Mombasa in December. So they now start even to understand that you can make sacrifices about money for a future goal. So basic things that make them understand the difference between spending on this and spending on that other item and making a sacrifice now for the future.
Okay, that's nice. The other question is, how do you protect your wealth? How do you protect your wealth? Because you find in some instances, someone has been working, mtu amekuwa akifanya kazi all through. Alafu ikifika ni wakati wa retirement, unapata pesa zimeisha all of a sudden. Haujui, sijui mara loans, mara vitu ameomba, mara rafiki, mara whatever. How do you protect your wealth? Yeah, even not only when you retire, even as a young person, how do you protect your wealth?
Thank you. Once you acquire wealth, you do understand the pain of acquiring it. And protecting wealth is to making sound financial decisions, okay? Not spending your money on unnecessary things. And again, also starting to prepare early for retirement. You mentioned about retirement, and I've been in that space for a number of years, advising people on retirement. So it is very important that you make your plans early. If you start saving for your retirement, immediately you start working, then when you retire, you'll have a huge lump sum of money. Again, I take this back to self-control. So when you're earning that income, ensure that it's directed to the right investments. I've seen here a question talking about gambling and the youth who are gambling right now, I'm sure because of the World Cup. So you have been given your school fees, na umeekelea bet. Okay? Umesema umeekelea kichwa a certain team. I know most of you lost money for that game of Saudi Arabia because you are sure that another team will win. So gambling is not an avenue for you to earn an income. Those gambling houses are there to make money. And they lure you. You will win today, you will win tomorrow, but they always say the house always wins. Okay? And what they're trying to get you to is an addiction. Okay? So gambling is not a source of income. So once you receive that money for your food and upkeep, use it for exactly that. Because again, as I said, your main goal here at Lukenya University is to exit with a degree and with good grades. Okay? In protecting of wealth, you invest that money in avenues that you have or you understand the risks involved. Okay? You do not take your money into pyramid schemes thinking that you are going to double or triple it. So most people who lose their wealth is that they either become greedy and go and invest in avenues that are assuring them of a very high return, but they are fraudulent and they lose all their money. So to protect your wealth, again, self-control and making sound decisions. There is no overnight millionaire. You'll have to work
Let me
hard.
add something.
Thank you.
Let me just add something on the protection of wealth. We could be young, but then it's not too young for us to consider insurance. It's actually one of the sure ways of ensuring your wealth is protected. So today you could be having a very nice phone. If you have insurance, then you are sure that should you lose that phone or should it get spoiled in insurable ways, then the insurance company will compensate you. You start out live and then you take a loan and build a nice home. You need insurance to cover it. Otherwise, if you lost it, you'll have lost that wealth. Your own life. Naturally, we pay all other bills, but we rarely pay ourselves. So we rarely invest in our health. That medical cover comes in really handy in protecting your wealth, because if you got sick and you have a health cover or a severe illness cover, you're not going to sell off your wealth to try and secure medical care. So insurance is one subject to consider. Personal accident cover. We are always traveling and we always get exposed. Do you have one? It doesn't select, as long as you're 18 and above, you qualify for it. So insurance is one sure way of protecting our wealth, and we should always consider it. It's cheaper when we are younger. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Now we can have some questions from the audience. We have one is there, another one is there. Kindly, we need only three students at the moment. So.
Good afternoon. My name is Simon Maina. I'm an information technology student. So I had this one question. As in, you people, you take, as in when we give you money, you invest on other platforms. Do you really take a chance to go in the background or in the community and look for innovative mind in those youngsters? And maybe you can support them, because when you invest in innovation, you build the future. Do you really think about it or maybe consider it? Because there is a lot of innovative mind there outside, maybe in the community or maybe amongst us. There's someone somewhere thinking about something, and maybe you've written a very good project and it can be very successful, but he doesn't have financial support, or he doesn't even have the courage or even the advice on how to tackle or how to go through his project. Do you really consider it, or do you have the platform on how to invest on innovation? Thank you.
The other one?
Yes. My question is, what happens when one dies and he has invested in your bank?
By the way. Yeah, the last one.
Good afternoon again. I'm still Benson. So, according to me, when I came here, I was coming to be taught about financial management. If it was health education, I would not come because I'm very healthy. And so, you've said you offer loans. And now, on my side, you also want to make your whatever investment company successful. So I'm giving you an advice in form of question. When I look here, this conference hall is full. If we can open our accounts today, you know this one is an investment platform. And then you offer all of us loans. And then we invest in that money. We will not withdraw that money. We will invest, and then, you know, we are talking about Queen Ama, and then you start laughing. This thing is very serious. It's not a new term. If you open accounts, and then for 80 shillings you have written here, you deposit in each and every account. You know, we are making also your business big. You invest this money, and then after you get your money back, we'll continue investing. How about it?
The last one.
Okay, thank you. My name is Rogers Odhiambo Otieno. I'm a fourth-year student of taking Bachelor of Education Science. My question is, we understand that you are an investing company, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I personally can be your client by saving in your company. So what will happen, because we understand that in the society we have different groups of people and they get their daily living from different ways. Let's say we have farmers, we have teachers, we have doctors, and there is also this group of thieves. And we know these thieves, they do advance with the advancements in technology. So what will happen if your account is hacked by these, let's say, thieves or IT experts? So what will happen to your clients? What action will you take to ensure that they are compensated? Thank you.
Good afternoon. I have a question, and my question is relevant to all of us here. You've characterized a budget as a tool for financial discipline. Now, we have a group of specific people. Now I'm talking about the comrades. They are financially distressed, if it's a nice word I can use. What is the essence of a budget for a person who doesn't have the money to meet their priority needs? And then the second question goes this way. There is a formula I've seen you've characterized money, 50, 30, 20. And then there are some of us belong to religion groups. And maybe our religion wants us to get maybe 10% of our earnings. Is it discipline financially if I offer 10% of my income, if you've said that it is already 30, 50, 30, 20, in that order? Thank you.
So I'll respond to questions. I'll respond to questions on budgeting, savings. Some of these answers could be repetitive, but I'll start with the final question on our budgeting formula, the 50, 30, 20 rule. Remember I mentioned that we have a percentage that goes to social welfare. So depending on how deeply rooted you are in your religion, that is not a subject that we can really put on a platform. But if I were to advise, then that should be part of your budget on social welfare. Then there was a question on why the need for budgeting when the resources are not even there. You could not be on this campus without resources, from whichever angle. The reason you are on this campus is there is some resource, however small. Otherwise, there are thousands of Kenyan children without even the basic education. So for you to be at the university, there is some sort of resource from wherever, whether it is a scholarship, whether it's a bursary, there is a resource somewhere. And there is definitely some money that comes into your pockets. The difference between you and neighbor should not be the reason you're not budgeting. And we all have priorities, regardless of where we are at in our journey of finances, or regardless of how financially fit we are. We all have some money coming through us. That's why we are here. We are not the most vulnerable if we are asked. So there's still need for us to budget. Again, if you don't start it at this juncture, you may never be able to do it. So start with the 100 shillings that you get. Then when you get 1 million, you'll be able to do it. Otherwise, if you don't start the practice, remember I said financial wellness is a culture. You must learn it, you must accept it, and you must practice. So if you can't practice with the little you have today, it will be very difficult for you to practice even with the more that will come. What happens when I die and I had invested at Old Mutual? So part of the forms that you fill sometimes request for next of kins and people that can be your beneficiaries. So should you die, those people are given your dues. But then there are many occasions where people never tell nobody that they have invested. And so on their death, Old Mutual does their random traction, of course, following up on payments, and your investments have stalled. So when they realize, then they should be able to follow up on your beneficiaries, and should there be none of them after some period of time, and then the money will go to unclaimed assets. The government has that provision for monies that go to unclaimed assets. It will be gazetted, and from that avenue, your relatives or your beneficiaries may be able to access your dues. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate. All right, you have something to say?
There was a question on on security in terms of the funds that are invested by Old Mutual. Measures have been put in place to ensure that anyone who's trying to access the system to defraud what we are doing, there is no way you can access that system and access the money. So measures have been put in place. Cyber security is very important to us to ensure we protect not only the funds and also your data. So the systems are there to ensure that no loss comes because of our fraudulent activity. Thank you.
All right, it has been a very interactive session and we are really happy for that. Say, oh my, my. Oh my, my. Now appreciate them, appreciate them, appreciate them. Thank you so much for that. We really appreciate and we have learned a lot. I've been your moderator, Barasa Duncan, with my colleague here, Marion. Thank you so much. Back to the MC. Appreciate the MC as he comes.
So we appreciate what you have done. It has been a productive session. And at this juncture, I'll welcome the LUSA chairperson on behalf of all the students to make his remarks.
Okay, all protocols observed. Good afternoon. I think we've had a very good session today, and we really need to appreciate the company and the group that has come along with us so that they can feel at least we are appreciative to them. So let's appreciate them in a 5 factorial club. Let's go.
Break it down now.
Thank you so much. We've had 2 sessions, and briefly, I will recap what touched me most. The first session, we had Samuel Aduke, the manager, Old Mutual, and I picked 2 things, that in the current lives, the current life that we are living in, we need to focus. Yes, we don't need to diverge and maybe do other things and leave others, but we need to focus more on technology, and the other one is about entertainment, what makes people happy. If we focus on those 2 areas, we might even get job opportunities as early as now, even before we graduate, or even before we get to the areas that we have come here to learn. Thank you for that. The second session, I will just pick only 2 also. We've learned about the values. They concentrated majorly on the values. One talked about discipline, and even she said that there are 5 things that maybe she mentioned that are very vital in one's planning and budgeting, and that's discipline up to number 5. Thank you so much for that. And the second one is about the self-control. Also, they said that when you control yourself, there is nothing that is impossible in your life. So thank you for these 2 sessions that we've had. So I could like to appreciate the team generally for visiting this place. Welcome again to Lukenya University. Any other time you feel like, organize with our management, and they will be welcoming as it has been today. Secondly, I would like to appreciate the panelists who are here. It's by willingness that they offered themselves. They were not forced. So thank you so much. When you were called upon, you actively participated on this, and you've shown that as Lukenya University students, we are also able to make good and able leaders and panelists and even other careers outside there. So thank you so much. Next, we want to appreciate our registrar, research and community outreach for organizing this event. Indeed, yesterday night when she was calling me, she was worried if the numbers if the students could turn out in large numbers. But we've proven her wrong and the team because you've turned out in large numbers. Thank you so much. Also, I want to appreciate the Dean of Students for hiyo makofi ni ya kuinama. Thank you so much. I know they are organizing over that, so do not worry. The Dean of Students for organizing this in collaboration with other management officials. Also the student leaders. The student leaders have helped us so much in maybe organizing this event. And whatever you are seeing here, even in the arrangement of seats, it's because of the goodwill of the student leaders. So they need to be also appreciated in a way. Lastly, I want to appreciate the students at large for attending this session. And it's a norm and culture in Lukenya University that when you attend, at least I've seen some people, majority of you, are noting some points down for future reference, and they will assist you maybe for your lifetime plans. So I want to make this request as I finish. I want to make the few requests. One, I was doing my research because I have been seeing Old Mutual, the building in Nairobi, but I've never known what it deals with, really. So I was doing my research, and I realized that it started in 1930, and that's, okay, in Kenya. It entered in the Kenyan market in the year 1930, and the UAP in 1920. So it's really old, the way the name suggests. So my request is, there is a question that has been raised by my brother here about technology, about innovation and invention. And I think, I don't know if I was asleep, I've not had it being tackled. So it's my request through the Office of the Dean of Students and the Office of the Registrar, Research and Community Outreach to this company and these good people who have visited us. We kindly request if we can organize a session of people who are skilled enough or who are innovative and inventive so that they can do something for your company to approve and support, because we have great minds here, talented, if we focus on two careers, technology and innovation. So we request that, and we will be happy if we will have that session and you support, because our aim is to support the community and the environment we're living in. Thank you so much. I could end this session or these remarks by reminding you of a certain quote that I have been using since I was in my high school in terms of saving and using money. It's by Warren Buffett, one of the richest people in the world. He says that, do not spend, do not save after spending. Teach yourself to spend after saving. I repeat, do not spend after saving. Teach yourselves to spend after saving. Thank you so much. What am I saying? Do not spend after, do not save after spending. Teach yourself to save after spending. No, okay, we want to get it right. Do not, listen, do not spend, do not save after spending. Teach yourself to spend after saving. So first things first, save first. Thank you so much.
Anachukua, anaweka, wa. Le général Dangote. Anachukua, anaweka, wa. Le grand Mouba. Anachukua, anaweka, wa. Boss Yamboka.
And Oma Serna.
The female king DJ.
So I think we can break some monotony. There is a group of people who want to entertain us a little bit. Tuchangamuke kidogo pia. The team, we are welcomed.
Anachukua, anaweka, wa. Le général Dangote. Anachukua, anaweka, wa. Le grand Mouba. Anachukua, anaweka.
How you invested, how you budgeted, how you
put some money aside, a savings, emergency funds. You just know what you're going to do with your cash.
Money. Money is the first word that comes to mind, of course. So what I'd say financial education is, how do you get the money and what do you do with the money?
Talks about money, like talks on how to budget, how to invest and save, talks on pension planning and stuff like that.
I would say yes, I do have habits that I have put in place, structures that I've put in place to help me ensure that I have good financial health.
I started a food business that is currently doing very well. So I'd say, apart from spending money, I also just research ways to invest money.
Okay, I'm a graphic designer. So the money I get from my hustle, I use...
Is right. Because some few years before I retired, a member of your workforce approached me. And she was so convincing, I accepted to save with you. So I started saving with you the last 5 years of my retirement. And I saved. When the money is deducted, check of system, you don't feel it. So it was deducted. When I got my letter of going home, I came down. And I visited your beautiful building. I was told, fill some forms. I filled some forms. And finally, I was paid without struggle at the comfort of my home. Can you appreciate them? They talked of financial discipline. It is true. There are colleagues whom we employed at the same time, served together for 35 years. And these guys went home. Some of them cannot afford a bicycle. They only have a bicycle. 35 years, and you only have a bicycle. Or whatever is they have said. The most crucial thing in life is financial discipline. I'm sure I began with a bicycle, went up to where I am today. I will not tell you where I am today. So please, embrace what they are telling you. It is true. It's true. I will not say much. I know you are worried so much, and you know what I stand for. When you see me around, I make sure that I organize like that. Because it's me. This one come to my office, tell me, Malimu nimeinama 3 times this week. Wengine wananiambianga, you know, water is good for life, but I've realized water cannot sustain throughout. Somebody takes water for 3 days, then wananiambia, really it has been hard. Then we negotiate as a parent, and I sort them out. So anyway, we are saying, in short, sitatumia mic. Okay. Let me make the final announcement. If they hear what I'm saying, they will be more than you. So keep safe and don't transmit that card. It has been designed by professionals and it will be used professionally. With that, can you clap for me as I sit down? Okay, at this juncture, let me invite the event organizer. I would have been here with the event organizer from the beginning, but we are having a this committee meeting. So we have to finish that, then I come. So can we clap till she comes? This is none other than Dr. Wafula, who has been organizing such events. You remember we had the pastoral conference, although it is only the chairman who was invited and the few officials. It was for high ranking because it was an African event. She organized for that. She's a very good event organizer and a good researcher. Karibu, madam.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We really take this opportunity as Lukenya University to really thank you, all Mutual Group, for being here with us, for the financial education career mentorship that you have given to us, staff, and even students of Lukenya University. Have you benefited anything? If you've benefited, just put up your hand. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I'm so grateful to know that you have benefited from this event. Yeah, so we, in fact, we were waiting for your meal cards. And those meal cards are going to be given to you. You remain wherever you are. Your meal card will reach you wherever you are. So thank you very much for being attentive. We as Lukenya University, the Board of Trustees, the Governing Council, the Senate, the management, the staff, the students of Lukenya University appreciate the session that we have had today. You have heard from the student leader, the Old Mutual Group. You have heard from the student leader. Oh, let's listen to this. Huh? The Old Mutual Group has heard from your leader what you need. And I believe that the Old Mutual Group is also going to consider some of the suggestions that you have given in terms of how you can be more involved in the Old Mutual Group, and even how you can be more assisted to become better, to even use your innovation as given by some of you, to be able to be financially stable. So they are even there to help you as mentors, to help you in your journey. We have their contacts. If you need their contacts, please come and we'll be able to give you the contacts. And also on their website, there are contacts there. There were also some flyers where their contacts are. So do not say that you're unable to get them. You should be able to get their contacts wherever you want. So even my office, I'm available to give you their contacts in case you need for their assistance in one way or another. So we will, to finish up this session, we will have a prayer to finish up the session. But before that prayer, I'll want us to stand up. Maybe I'll ask Margaret if you can come up. We are going to take a photo. They're going to take a photo of all of us. So in being able to do that, I'll ask Margaret to come up. Margaret, please come up so that you can give us direction on how you want the photo to be done. And then after that, we'll have a prayer given by one of the students. So one of the students, please volunteer to come up. Just come forward so that you will give us a closing prayer for the session. This was a student-led event. That's why we had student panelists. Yeah, as they are coming forward, please join me to appreciate all the moderators that came here to lead different sessions. So let's give them 5 factorial. Let's go. 1, 2. Thank you very much, all the moderators of the session, together with those who are facilitating within the students, to give the microphones and all that. Thank you very much. You did a wonderful work, and we really appreciate you. Let's also join our hands to give 5 factorial clap for the All Mutual Group for the education they have given to us, and that we have been able to benefit from them. Let's also give them 5 factorial clap. Let's go. Thank you very much. So we appreciate you. And I ask Margaret to take us through that photo session.
All right, thank you very much. Shh. All right, so we'd like to do a really nice photo. You guys look amazing. Thank you so much for hosting us. My name is Margaret. I'm the sponsor of this event, so you clap for me. All right, and looking forward to engaging more. As you go out for lunch, when we are done, and you had a question that was very pressing, that was not answered, I'll give my team like 10, 15 minutes to hang back to answer them. And then they'll proceed. If you enjoyed the forum, please request the Dean to invite us next year. And we'll make it bigger and better. So I don't know whether you've been in concerts. There's how you do that photos. You stand where you are, and then I'll count you down, and you should be up here. You, come up here. Then our photographers will count us down, and we'll go, what did we learn? Financial discipline, okay? So I'll say 3, 2, 1, and then you'll do. You get it? If you don't get it? All right. So stand. Don't disrupt where you're seated so that the distribution guys are fine. Just stand. Make sure you look beautiful and lovely so that we use it in the photo. Stretch. I'll count you down as we dance. I know my dancers are here ready to dance. DJ Celine, are you waving? That's my DJ. She's super awesome. She's called DJ Celine. Come here. No, come be clapped for her from up here. Good. This is DJ Celine. She's awesome. Please clap for her. That's DJ Clash. DJ Clash, please wave. Our photographer is called Peter. Esteemed Imagery, please wave. Ken atukoni. Ken, come. Our live streaming video guy, superhero guy there is called Ken. Ken from Flav Media. All right, and I want to thank the school very much. You go back and do your jobs. Okay, and thank you to you too. All right, so I'll count you down. Are we done distributing? Everyone has a meal card? Everyone has a meal card? All right, 3, 2, 1. That was trizex. That was trizex. That was trizex. If you can jump, you jump. Smile, happy. Hii kuinama ni kwa muda tu inaisha. All right? All right? Celine, are you on the decks? 3, 2, 1. Good job. Thank you, everyone. I think we're going to pray and then we go for lunch. Who was going to pray?
So let us pray. Okay, can we?
All right, let us pray. Shh, we are praying. Mutainama, let's pray.
Okay, let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you. We say thank you for this section. Thank you for visitors. Thank you also for the students who have come here. Lord, we pray you're going to take our lunch. The Lord, you bless us. You may bless our hearts. You may be with us. You may guide us. Let everything that we have learned here, Lord, let us be able to apply it in our lives. In Jesus' name we pray, trust and believe. Amen.
And may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us now and forevermore. Amen. Just be seated, remain seated as the meal cards are given to those who have not yet gotten the meal cards. Just remain seated, be patient. So we are going to have entertainment. Huh?
Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you. Celine, over to you.
Stella Mwangi, the female king DJ. Can you stand up? Stella Mwangi.
Lukenya, stand up.
Oi, 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 oi. Oi, 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 oi. Bad vibes, I'm allergic to. Oi, 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 oi. Oi, 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 oi. Bad vibes, I'm allergic to. Gang, gang, hina matata mboga ni genje. Checking the gill, shaking the bam, bam, packing the jang, jang. Kumisha sofisha rada, sinu wajanja. Tupiki chai na ketefa, yetu ni ganja. Tea, hini fanta, tunakata, hini rasta, mana gangsta. Sema ngo utegwa kweo, guzo cheke kwekwe kwe. Mina taka sante punda, rrrr, teke ke. Maneno yako bita shinda adi morsik. Na kama boss in vita man, I don't fight chicks. Na rapa ineza futa yo career race. Na pia chuta juta cook the beef at your own risk. Hini lambo tana Subaru can't race it. Big ego koko jambo, let's face it. Luna hand kabo lingua, I can't take it. Nina swali, hey amigo, can I kick it? Oi, 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 oi. Oi, 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 oi. Bad vibes, I'm allergic to. Oi, 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 oi. Ooh, ay, ay, ay. Can't get enough of him. Everything that is done for me, I will give all the praise to him. He got me going, ooh, ay, ay, ay. Can't get enough of him. Everything that is done for me, I will give all the praise to him. He got me going, ooh, ay, ay, ay. Alinitoa tu pabaya, ay, ay. Ningechomeka gana fire, ay, ay. Kama siyo jekundu yoko waya, ay, ay. Sasa kila kitu fresh kama mala before we ferment. Nangoja cheki what next. Amenipa hope kiba ono flex. Amenibless na akaandika sosa. Sasa ni TBT siku za window shopper. So kila siku nafunga kangoma. Kupa sifa mimi sitakoma. Ooh, ay, ay, ay. Can't get enough of him. Everything that is done for me, I will give all the praise to him. He got me going, ooh, ay, ay, ay.
Invested, how you budget it, how you put some money aside, a savings, emergency funds. You just know what you're going to do with your cash.
Money is the first word that comes to mind, of course. So what I'd say financial education is, how do you get the money and what do you do with the money?
Talks about money, like talks on how to budget, how to invest and save, talks on pension planning and stuff like that.
I would say yes, I do have habits that I have put in place, structures that I've put in place to help me ensure that I have good financial health.
I started a food business that is currently doing very well. So I'd say, apart from spending money, I also just research ways to invest money.
Okay, I'm a graphic designer. So the money I get from my hustle, I use some of it to invest in the hustle, and then some of it I save, and then some of it I use for my upkeep.
There's so much that you can do with the little money that you got.
I save and I spend. Those are the two main things. I haven't gotten a chance to really invest.
Work on just investing in my future.
I'll know better ways of actually making use of old voucher.
I can't say I'm the best when it comes to spending money.
And one mistake I see people doing is saying that they'll wait till they get good money so that they can start investing and they can start saving.
Every young person needs this. In the world we are moving to, you need to learn how to save, how to let your money work for you.
It was exciting to learn that I can actually narrow down to what I should have, what I must have, what I have that I don't really need to use. There are things that maybe end up wasting my money for no reason. So I think, yes, I've really learned a lot, which I look forward to apply.
For most of us young people, we tend to give up when we can't see the gain. But this is a long-term game. So how do you keep that momentum? How do you keep that mindset and start young and keep investing?
Yes, because investment is about risk, I think I'll be able to take this one. But now I have more knowledge and I'll be more cautious as I do savings and investing.
It was amazing because you got to engage, like I said, from both fronts and got to hear the perspective of students and the perspective of someone trying to, bring that kind of conversations to students. Yes.